Being gardeners, I think it's really important that we're always looking back on our previous seasons. For me, summer, even though it's still going on, is that one season that has so much promise, but there's also so many things that tend to happen during this season. I figured why not do a video on the 5 things that I noticed this summer, and I wanted to share it with all of you, that I definitely need to change for next summer. Okay, so the first thing, and these aren't in any kind of ranking order or anything like that, but I wanted to have a lot of peppers this year, but I didn't have all the space that I need. So I thought, man, I need to get a whole lot of buckets. Now, usually my container garden game is really, really good. And in fact, this area right here is where I have most of my containers. They're all 5-gallon buckets. They're all food safe grade buckets. But I thought, man, I'm gonna have to buy so many of those. I didn't really want to spend all that money. So I have a gardener friend who has a whole bunch of these buckets, a whole bunch of these black buckets. So I was like, dude, give me as many of those as you can, if you would. And he did. He gave me a whole bunch. Filled them up with soil, and at first everything was going great. But to be totally honest and transparent, most of everything I planted in these black buckets have died. Or really just didn't do very well. Now that could be a combination of both the buckets and the soil, I don't know. But I'm assuming, because I used the exact same soil in other areas and in other beds, I'm assuming that the issue are the buckets. They are black. This is South Texas. It gets really, really hot. And I didn't even think about the fact that the heat would be attracted to the black buckets and dry these things out so fast. So I'm sure that's what happened to everything that I planted in them for the most part. So I will not use them again next year in the same way. What I think I'm going to do, and I think this will work, on both sides of my house, I have these long, useless areas here. They don't get as much sun as they do out here, but they get enough sun to where I think it'll be enough for pepper plants in those buckets in these areas that get 5 to 8 hours of sun. They get between 5 and 8 hours of sun, still get the heat and the humidity and all that, but not the direct sun. Instead of sitting out here getting 12-ish hours of sun just baking and baking and baking. I think that's going to work. I'm not sure, but I am going to try that next year. If you all have any suggestions, please drop them in the comments. But that is definitely one thing I noticed. These did not work out the way I wanted them to. That is for sure. Okay, the second thing are drip lines. Now, I have drip lines everywhere. I mean, as you can see, I actually have them where they go from here, under the ground, up into here, and in the same setup on the other side of this bed that goes into that bed. I have them draped along the wall there, covering all of this over here. So I have a good drip system. The issue that I have is that somehow my grass cutters destroyed or ran over this drip line right here. And when I turn it on, this whole area becomes a sopping swamp. And so these beds aren't getting the water that they need. Now, the same thing almost sort of happened over there where I popped one of the little drip lines that are on top of these beds. What I need to do is get out here and fix these issues. It'll be more than likely the next video coming out, or very soon, definitely next week. And not just fixing the issues as soon as you see them, but also adjusting, and I don't want to say amending your drip system, but I'm gonna use this as an example, right? As you all know, this is my indeterminate tomato bed right here. But in the summer, fall, and winter, I use this for okra and beans and peas and those things. Now, you don't want water spraying on your tomato plants, right? You want a drip system in here, which is what I have right there. I've got 3 lines going down the whole length of this bed here. Now, in the spring, this works great for the tomatoes. Waters everything perfectly. It's not spraying water up on the tomatoes, creating, diseases and stuff like that. But right now, where I have beans and okra, I could use a sprinkler system in here that sprays the water instead of drips the water. So what am I saying? I want to come in here, and I think what I'm going to do very soon, like I just mentioned, is I'm going to start adding heads that can spray water, but I'm also going to create little valves that I can turn that off if I don't want that time of year using the spray heads, like when I have tomatoes in here. So what am I getting at? What I did over the course of this year is I really wanted to pay attention to certain areas and see just what am I planting in those areas. Does the drip system work for those areas? And to be honest, I have a lot of issues with my drip system. I need to address them. And I keep putting this off and putting it off. So the second thing definitely over the summer that I noticed is I need to, stop procrastinating with certain projects, but definitely when it comes to something as big as irrigation and watering your plants in your garden, I got to stop just pushing it off and pushing it off. I got to fix things. So just being transparent, even I do this. It gets too hot or I don't have the time and I just don't do it. But I have to start doing this stuff. And I wanted to be honest with everybody because I'm the same way as I'm sure everyone is. You get, oh man, here's an excuse, I'm not going out there. Oh, here's an excuse, I'm not going out there. So yeah, I think we all need to work on that, right? At least I do. Okay, this third point is kind of a no-brainer, but I need to amend my beds more. Now I amend them twice a year, spring and fall. Winter and basically summer. Now I've already come through and amended a lot of them, but I think I need to start amending more. And I'm going to use that bed again as an example. I had tomatoes in there, lots and lots and lots of tomatoes with lots and lots and lots of basil and other plants all intermingled in that bed. They definitely drain that bed of nutrients. And I think that's why these okras are taking their sweet time. These beans are looking pitiful. I think there's an issue with the nutrition in that bed. And to be honest, if you look along the bed, you can see gaps where the soil has sunk down. And that's just natural. That's, nature doing its thing, decomposing the compost and everything that I put in there over last winter. But those plants should start really taking off like these okra plants. And again, I had to think, what was the difference? Well, I haven't put as much amending into this bed because until recently, it was full of tomato plants and basils and just everything in that bed. These beds along here, I'm constantly amending. I'm bringing home bags of stuff, throwing down a layer of compost, throwing down a layer of garden mix, and keeping these beds really, really amended. So amending more. And I think that also will go into my container game. The mosquitoes. I don't amend them as much as I should, and I know that. And that's fine, because doing self-reflection is important, just for you as a person, but also definitely as a gardener. So amending more. My advice to y'all is if you think you need to amend, just amend. Be on the safe side. Okay, now this fourth thing I'm very, 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 very guilty of. I like to grow a ton of everything. If I see something in a catalog, I order it. And I'm like, man, that's gonna look awesome. That's gonna be amazing. But I'm already growing, 20 different types of peppers. Do I need 30 types of peppers? Or I've got this eggplant bed here. I have 2 to 3 eggplants that I really like, but I've got 11 different types in this bed. Why? Like seriously, why? I've tried 3 new varieties of eggplants that have grown and didn't like them. So what am I going at with this? I'm going to only start focusing, for the most part, on plants or crops that I know I like. As an example, these white eggplants. I love these things. They are such a good flavored eggplant. You could throw a little oil, salt and pepper, throw them in the oven, and just eat them. So good, so good. But do I really need to plant so many different kinds? No, but I was doing that to test. But I think by year 4, this is my 4th summer, I think I've narrowed down the eggplants. But I'm not just focusing on eggplants. I'm also talking about tomatoes. I had way too many types of tomatoes in here. Next year, I'm going to focus on a very hand select few, along with the single seed challenge, of course. I always do that with a new tomato. Peppers, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to grow. I think I honestly had initially about 40 different types of peppers. And I think honestly only about 10 really grew well out here. And I think a lot of that had to do with where I had them. I get that, those black buckets and everything. Or keeping them in containers and not amending enough with, you know, fish emulsion and things of that nature. But I'm going to limit the amount of crops, of different types of crops, of different crops within the same type of crop than I've been doing. I think that's going to just better my gardening next year. It's going to let me really focus on certain ones that I know I like, and I'll still test a few other ones, but I'm not going to keep doing all these crazy, hey, I've got 50 different types of peppers. Well, that's stupid. One, I don't have the room for them, and two, they're not staying alive the way I want them to. And I really should probably have shade cloths up everywhere, and I know that. So before y'all tell me that, I already know. I know, shade cloths. But that's not one of my, well, I guess that is a bonus thing. I definitely need to have more shade cloths, and I know this. And I've got them ordered. They're sitting in there in the house. Okay, fifth and final thing. This is gonna come no surprise to y'all. Pests. Now, I feel that I do a really good job preparing for pests. I really do. I've done videos on pests. I'm constantly telling everyone to be looking for pests, be on just be on the alert for pests. When you see them, handle them immediately. But I've been hit with pests this year, and the amount of pests this year has just been insane. I think I sat down the other day and thought about it. I think I was hit with 7 or 8 different types of legitimate pests. Not just ones that annoy you. I'm like talking about legit pests. And one, this leaf rolling caterpillar little beast that destroyed my beans in a matter of like that. So where am I going with this one? My advice is really simple on this. Research your area. Wherever you are in the world, research that area and know what the local or the normal pests are for that area. And then continue researching other pests. So when one of these little punks show up, you're prepared for them, you know what to expect, and you can handle them. But I'm gonna be totally real. I was not prepared for the amount of pests that I got nailed with this year. It was nuts, y'all. And just now in the last couple weeks, 3 weeks, when this heat is finally, well, I mean, we had the hurricane and then 10 days of rain, and now we're going into like 2 weeks of like 99, 97 degree weather. Actual temp weather, not feel like weather. Feel like weather, we're at 107, 110, that kind of stuff now. But I'm not seeing any pests. I mean, I'm gonna knock on some wood here, but I haven't seen really any of them. So I know the heat is a big part of them, but fall is right around the corner. So they're gonna come back to a point. But I've always had less pests in fall than I do in spring. And that's why certain things I'm not gonna plant in the spring next year. I'm only gonna plant them in the fall, which I've already started, like the squashes. But definitely be prepared for your pests and do your research. That's so important. I've got a lot of videos on pests. Go back, check them out. I hope they help. And I also have videos on beneficial insects that will help combat the pests naturally. All right, everyone, so that's the video. Hope you all enjoyed this. I don't know what you all have dealt with where you are, but I hope if any of the issues that I've dealt with ring a bell for you all, you now have something to go on, some inspiration, or it's not just you dealing with this stuff, because we're all dealing with the same type of stuff. Let's be real. We're all gardeners. We're all gardening at some point of the year in some place in the country, and we're all going to be dealing with the same types of stuff. As down as I can get about, oh man, I just lost this, or I got hit with this, I know there's other people out there dealing with the same thing. And that's why I like to do videos like this, where I can come out here and just share honestly and transparent with everyone that we're all dealing with the same stuff. So keep your head up, don't quit. Gardening is a journey of ups and downs. It's a roller coaster, y'all. But it's an amazing roller coaster. And even though we got to deal with certain things, you deal with all that success and those beautiful, amazing harvests. And it makes it so worth it. So just know, whatever you're dealing with, you're not the only ones. Trust me. Trust me. All right, everybody, if y'all enjoyed this video, as always, do me a favor, share it, like it, and subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already. If I have earned your subscription today, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell so you're always notified whenever I upload videos. Everyone take care. God bless. Continue to shine bright and harvest hard. Get in your gardens. Figure out what it is that you need to adjust for next summer. Write it down so you don't forget. And I'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye. Is on the sides of both of my house. On the sides of both of my house. That made no sense, Chad.